Yatkin Kreshu Bausa Kaluka Kavani Nitapurasha Purusha Shashakandamuli Tashagadara Sanideva Sabanu Jayas Tatkeli Kunja Bhavanangana Majani Shama Jami Radha Radhavinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smitasham Vadhami Radha Karuna Varajam Tato Manasti Gati Nakapi Pakita Vihino Yapurada Lakshay Shiptascha Kamari Tarangamaji Kripamayi Twang Sharanang Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanara Kanaka Jaladagatro Nila Sobhagya Netro Mrigumara Varavalu Malati Kundamalu Tarlana Taruna Vesho Nila Pitambarisho Smaraneni Britini Kunje Radhika Krishna Chandro Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dhanyavad Pranam devotees. So we mentioned that Sriman Mahaprabhu, he had written the Shishashtakam as a bhajan parati in 8 verses early on, and his mercy was that he would give something from his own heart, mind, and hand that devotees could have in order to achieve the goal that Mahaprabhu himself brought to the world. So Mahaprabhu's descent is described, Anarpita Chirim Charat Karunavatirna Kalo, Samutpayatam Unata Ujwalarasa Swabhakti Sriyam. So this means that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only appears once, first of all, in the 28th day or 28th cycle in one day of Lord Brahma. So that's an astronomical period of time. So when he does appear, he mercifully bestows something that he does not give even in any other Leela. And that is Unata Ujwalarasa Swabhakti Sriyam. So the operative words here are Swabhakti Sriyam. So Swabhakti Sriyam means that the highest type of love that is expressed to Krishna is expressed by Srimati Radharani. That love is called Unata Ujwalarasa. So it means that love which is fully blossomed and shimmering. Mahaprabhu himself came to taste that love because Krishna himself wanted to taste the mood of Radhika. But what he distributed was Swabhakti Sriyam, the beauty of service to that mood of Radhika's love. That's the special gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to give. So how to obtain that? Mahaprabhu also himself took the form of a devotee and performed a Leela in order to demonstrate practically and through his teachings to others like our Goswamis, to Ramananda Roy and to others, to teach how to obtain this unique position of service to the love of Srimati Radhika. That position of serving the love of Srimati Radhika is called Radha Dasyam or Manjari Bhav. So Manjari Bhav means those younger girlfriends of Radhika, like Rupa Manjari, Lavanga Manjari, Vilas Manjari, Guna Manjari, etc., Raman Manjari, they are slightly younger than Srimati Radhika, and their full dedication is to Radhika and making Radhika happy through bringing her and Krishna together. That is the soul, mood, and heart of the Manjaris. That mood is the unique feature that Mahaprabhu gives when he descends to this world. In order to do that, Apani Atri Bhakti Shika Musabhari, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself takes the form of a devotee and practically demonstrates how to obtain and to do sadhana in such a way that one can get this mood called Manjari Bhav. So Manjari Bhav is also very special because our entire line of all of our Goswamis coming down to our present day gurus have Manjari Swarup. In other words, their spiritual forms are as Manjaris. So if you go back through the line of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, back to all of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Narada, all have Manjari Swarup. So it is the prominent feature of this line. And it may be that in maturation, each of you will also realize that is your Swarup, but that can't be done prematurely. First, we have to enter into the stage of practice. And from the stage of practice, gradually the heart and the consciousness becomes purified, and then the spiritual energy can illuminate the particular type of mood, which is sitting as like a seedling in the heart. That seedling having been planted previously by association with a sadhu, the illumination of the internal spiritual energy will illuminate that seedling, and over the course of your practice, cause it to blossom. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was giving instructions to Sanatana Goswami, he told, Malikana se bij aropan, Shravanam Kirtane, Shravanam Kirtana, Shravanam Kirtane Jale, Kariye Shekon. He said that you should plant the seed, because the seed is received from Guru. What is the verse? Brahmanya Brahmati Kona Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Poi Bhakti Lata Bij. So we're wandering throughout the material universes for life after life. If we are greatly fortunate, we meet the sadhu. And in meeting a sadhu, we create a relationship of guru and disciple. That sadhu then from his own heart gives the seed of bhakti. That seed of bhakti then, Mahaprabhu was saying, Malik Kanose Bijaropan. Malik means like a gardener. So become like a gardener and plant the seed, because nobody can force you to take up the process of bhakti or practice it. So that has to be a voluntary thing. So we take up the practice by planting that seed in the heart and acting according to the instructions of Guru and Sadhu and Sastra. So once we plant that seed, then Shravanam Kirtane Jale, we water it by hearing and chanting. So like now we're hearing and chanting, that waters that seed. Gradually the sunshine of the internal energy and the constant hearing and chanting of the spiritual substance embedded in the Harikatha and so forth, that acts as like nourishment for that seed, and the seed grows and it begins to sprout, then it begins to fully blossom, then the flowers come, and then the ultimate fruit of that seed, or that's now become a fully blown creeper, and then eventually a flower and fruit, is love of God in a particular mood. So Mahaprabhu himself was so merciful that he came and did that. Then additionally, he wrote these 8 verses to explain that the essential practice to obtain that goal is Harinam. So we went over the first verse last week. And in the second verse, I'll first describe the appropriate understanding for us as practitioners. And afterwards, I'll try, by the mercy of Gurudev and Guru Parampara, to describe Radhika's mood in the recitation of the second verse. So the second verse is Nam Nam Akri Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti Tatra Arpita. So I'm going to stop there and explain. So Nam Nam Akri Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. So Nam Nam Akri Bahuda means that Krishna has, Akri means manifested. Nam Nam Akri, he has manifested Bahuda, several names, right? Unlimited names. Those names come in 2 different categories. One is called Mukhya Nam, means the primary names of Krishna. The other is called Gon, means secondary names. So primary names of Krishna means Govinda, Damodar, Madhav, Radhavallabh, Yashoda Nandan, Nanda Nandan. So many beautiful names related directly to the sweetness of his pastimes. Even names like Ram, Nrsinga, etc. These are also names. But these names also are primary names of those avatars. Then there are Gon. Gon means secondary names, like Ishvara, Paramatma, Narayan, meaning the source of the creation and so forth and so on. These are like secondary names. So in the primary names, Krishna's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was mentioning Namnam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti Tatra Arpita. He has given all of his potency in those names. So what does that mean? When you read it on the surface, it appears, oh, the names are very, very powerful. So that's what you get from the basic meaning. That in those names, there's all kinds of power. But the actual meaning here is Nija Sarva Shakti. It means especially that within the name, the power or potency of Bhakti is present. Nija means his own, means Srimati Radharani. That Shakti of Radharani, which gives devotion to others, is called Bhakti Shakti. That Shakti is present in the name in full. Not only that, but in each name, Krishna invested all of the characteristics of that name. Every name contains the root that name is related to. Root means the form of Krishna that name is related to. The gun, the qualities of that particular form, and the parikar, the associates of that particular form, and the leelas related to that particular form. So for instance, in the name Damodar, not only is Bhakti Shakti present there, which gives the power to realize Damodar, but also the Bal Roop, means the young form of Krishna, when he's like about 2 to 3 years old. And the quality of his being in that age, it's called his Bal Leela, means his as a small child pastimes. All of the qualities of the beauty of that form, the sweetness of that form, the nature of the activities of that form, just like in a small child, there's so many adorable qualities. Their broken language, the sweetness of, like even in that particular form, Krishna doesn't wear any clothes even. Only has one golden thread tied around his waist. So beautiful, so attractive at that time. No need even putting any clothing, anything. He's just like a baby. You understand? Just like a baby sometimes. We don't put anything except diaper or something like that. So all of these things in the name are present there. Not only that, but the associates of Krishna, when his cowherd boyfriends are very young, but predominantly at that time, Nanda and Yashoda are the prominent parikars or associates of that Leela. So they are fully present in that name Damodar. And Yashoda Mai's Prem, Vatsalya Prem, is fully present in the name Damodar, like we're singing throughout the Kartik month. Namayeshwaram Sachirananda Rupam. So we explained this whole bhajan once before. So all of the beauty of that Leela is also present there. And of course, Mother Yashoda, all the elderly goat, all are present in that Leela. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying here that Nijasava Shakti means all of these elements are present in that name. So if the devotee will chant the name Damodar, like we were doing during Kartik Mas, then when the heart becomes suitably pure, then immediately the entire Leela of Damodar Bandhan Leela, the binding of Krishna to the grinding mortar, will appear in the purified heart. Because as soon as you chant that name, all of the Shakti of that name is present. And once the heart becomes purified and you can have resonance with that potency, immediately the entire Leela appears within the heart. So it's similar with every other name of Krishna. As soon as you say Nanda Nandan, all the pastimes of Krishna with Nanda Maharaj appear. As soon as you will say Gopi Janavalabhai, then all of Krishna's pastimes with gopis, that also appears there. If you'll say, oh, Radha Gopinath, then all the pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Gopinath and all gopis, Rasa, everything will appear in the heart. So this was the special gift of Mahaprabhu, that he put all of the Shakti, Tatra Arpita, in the names. But more importantly, Niyamita Smarane Nakala. So the word, so Niyamita here means, Niyam means rules and regulations. Just like for those who have taken Diksha, second initiation, quote, there's very many rules and regulations about what time you have to chant your mantras. You have to be in a clean condition. You have to be seated facing the east in the morning, north in the evening. You have to chant by covering your hand, right? And before you begin your chanting, you have to recite the Bhutta Suddhi. So there's so many rules and regulations to chant the Diksha mantras. But for chanting Harinam, Niyamita, there are no rules and regulations. If you're laying down, you can chant. If you've just woken up from bed and you have not washed mouth, face, anything, you can chant. You should do these things, but even if you don't, you can chant. At any time, under any condition, there's no rules, regulations for how to chant the holy name. But here it doesn't say Niyamita Kirtan. It says Niyamita Smarane Nakala. So Nakala means there's no time restriction. You can chant morning, evening. Like to chant your Diksha mantras, you have to chant at sunrise, noon, and sunset. But to remember Harinam, there's no need for any consideration of time. You can chant it any time. Now there's optimal times for practice, like we should rise during Brahma Muhurta hours. It means from 3:36 roughly till about 6 o'clock in the morning. This is the Brahma Muhurta time. We should try to do our bhajan during that time, if it is at all possible. It is the most auspicious time to do your bhajan sadhu. Now he's saying, but smarane nakala. Even in the afternoon, you can chant. Nighttime, you can chant. Laying down, you can chant. But we should make a habit of doing our prescribed rounds, right? During Brahma Muhurta hours, if possible. If not, a fixed period of time during the day to make sure you chant your fixed number of rounds, your prescribed number of rounds. But the name itself doesn't require any consideration about time. But especially the word smarane is being used here, not just kirtan. It doesn't say tatra arpita niyamita kirtan. It says tatra arpita niyamita smarane nakala. So why the word smaran is used? Because the chanting should not be done simply as a vocalization and then an auditory experience. The chanting should be done to invoke smaran of that particular name being chanted. The Hare Krishna mantra, Hare, Krishna, and Ram contain all of the other names of Krishna and all of the other names regarding Krishna Leela. Yashodananda, Nandanandan, Radha Vallabh. You understand? All of the names are contained in the root mantra, Hare, Krishna, and Ram. So it says that when one is chanting their japa, that japa should be done with smaran. So what is smaran? Smaran doesn't mean just, we translate it in English as remembrance. But the actual word smaran means when the heart has become purified, automatically, when you chant the name, then organically, not by intellectual imposition, but organically, the name produces smaran. It means internal remembrance of all of the Leela's associates, forms, and qualities, as it was mentioned earlier, related to the names. So when you're chanting the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When you're chanting your japa, immediately when your heart becomes a little purified, rather than having this auditory and vocal experience, you'll actually immediately initiate a smaran. Because the heart is purified organically, it unfolds in the heart as remembrance of the Rup, Gun, Parika, and Leela of Krishna. You understand? And it happens automatically. You can't impose that on the heart. So smaran is something that's organic to a spiritual maturation. So Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha, he wrote about this. He mentions Pratamam Namnaha Shravanam Sudha Antakaram Artha Apeksham. So he's saying that first, Pratama means in the beginning, we should chant and hear the name. Pratamam Namnam Shravanam Sudha Antakaram, and allow the effect, the power which is in the name, to purify the antakaran. Antakaran means the subtle body. Subtle body means the mind, intelligence, and the false egoism. So the name has the effect of purifying the subtle body. In other words, it allows the conception of I and mind to be washed away. That's the product of false egoism, is the idea of I and mind. It takes the mental and intellectual functions and turns them towards the service of Krishna. So this is described that the external senses, you cannot really chant the holy name even. Ataha Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavat Grayam Indriya. So your tongue and your ears cannot accommodate hearing and chanting. Because the phenomenon that's truly hearing and chanting is a spiritual phenomenon. It's not a material phenomenon. So it can't be produced by the material senses. But Sevan Mukhi Hi Jivado. Sevan Mukh means when the heart has the disposition of service, because it's been purified from its own self-interest and false egoism. At that time, the name reveals itself to the person who's chanting. You understand? Chanting here means Sevan Mukh. It doesn't mean just audio and vocalization. It means the attitude of serving present by repeating the name and hearing it. You understand? That becomes Sevan Mukh, the tendency of wanting to serve Krishna with the ideal of obtaining love for Krishna. Other than that, there were many people, and I'm going to get into this next, the different categories of Nam, but there were many people when the Beatles, or George Harrison in particular, made that record, My Sweet Lord. It was such a popular record, and obviously on the record, the Hare Krishna mantra is there, right? Hare Krishna. Millions of people were singing that. Millions. It doesn't mean that millions of people became pure Vaishnavas. You understand? They were hearing it, but in their hearing it, their attitude was, I'm enjoying the sound vibration. It's attitude. I may even be having a drink while hearing this number one song. You understand? Or maybe getting high while hearing this number one song with friends. You understand? So it's not just the hearing of the sound vibration, but the attitude of the desire to serve with the intention to develop the relationship of love is what reveals the actual Nam. The Rup, Gun, Leela, and Parikar is revealed by that attitude. So here it says the holy name first purifies the Antakara, means the subtle body. Then Sude cha Antakarane. Sude cha Antakarane tat udaya. What is this? Sude cha Antakarane tat udaya yogyata bhavati. Then the Antakaran, when it becomes pure, Sudecha Antakarane, Tat Udaya. Udaya means to rise, natural, like the sun naturally rises. Tat Udaya, Yogyata Bhavati. A yog means a connection between your heart and the Nam, which is different from Krishna, takes place. This is the real meaning of yoga. Yogyata Bhavati, that takes place in the heart once the Antakaran is pure. You understand? So once the subtle body has been cleansed by hearing the Nam, the vibration of Nam, then Sudecha Antakarane Tat Udaya Yogyata Bhavati. Then a connection with the Namni. Namni means the possessor of the name takes place in the consciousness. So now when you are chanting, there's an actual experience of Sri Krishna's Nam. So for instance, in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, the name Radha is present in the vocative form in Sanskrit language. The vocative of Hara is Hare. So Radharani appears. Krishna means Sri Krishna appears. But they don't appear alone. They appear with all of their associates, depending on the particular mood of aspiration that you have. So if you have an aspiration to serve in conjugal mood, means in Madhurya Rasa, especially in Manjari Bhav, Radha and Krishna appear. Shri Rup Manjari appears. Your Guru Rupa Sakhi appears. Everything related to your mood of service appears. Tat Udaya Yogyata Bhavati, once the Antakaran has been purified. So that means what blocks us from having that experience is still the presence of contamination in the consciousness via the subtle body. You understand? Via the subtle body, contamination remains there. So even when we hear the holy name, then that experience doesn't come, but rather, the next line says, Etadrasi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdavam itrisam ihajani na anuraga. So it says, the result of the antakaran not being cleansed is that even though Krishna has shown so much mercy by putting all kinds of mercy in the holy name, because he's giving that this is my gift. This was the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even though I'm giving it, Duradaiva means we become so unfortunate that because we're not making deep, intense efforts to purify the antakaran, that also requires mercy. But because we're not doing that, then idrisam ihajani na anuraga. Therefore, we have no attraction, deep attraction. The word anurag here doesn't mean that we're not trying to do the right thing. It means we have not yet developed. Anurag means deep rag or attachment, following in the mood of a desire for service. We've not developed that. You understand? So now anurag, I have not developed deep attachment in the wake of or following the desire for serving Krishna in a particular mood. So it also indicates clearly the absence of sambandha gyan. Sambandha gyan means I don't, like many people are chanting Hare Krishna because it's the right thing to do. They realize that the material world is miserable, that the material world has suffering in it, and I want to get away from the suffering and get free from the material energy and so forth. So I found this process called Bhakti. Bhakti is based on chanting Hare Krishna, so I'm also chanting Hare Krishna. And I'm hoping that by chanting this Hare Krishna, all my problems will go away. You understand? So that becomes the basis. So the deep mood to develop a loving relationship doesn't take place. Just like if two people meet and they have a sort of exploitive mentality, person thinks, well, listen, if I marry that person, they're kind of wealthy, they'll take care of me. I don't have to worry about anything, right? So rather than being predominated, the relationship being predominated by wanting to develop love for that person, there may be just an attraction on the basis of the ability of that person to help you get free from your problems, financially or otherwise. You understand? So we do the same thing in relationship to Krishna and the chanting. Many devotees are thinking, yes, I'm just chanting to get free from the suffering of the material world. So therefore, there's no real deep relationship of love that's being developed, even though we may psychologically think that's the case. But really, we're just basically chanting to get free from the material world, to get free from problems. Because I've heard that by chanting, once I pass away from this world, I'll go back to Krishna Loka and everything. There'll be a Sunday feast every day. You understand? All my problems will be gone. But the actual mood should be to develop love and a tendency for service in love to Sri Krishna with no self-interest. So by purifying the antakaran, this takes place. But because we don't do that, then durdavam idrisami hajani na anuraga. The deep rag, mood of love, in the wake of an attitude of service does not take place. So durdavam, we become very unfortunate. That even though we have the greatest thing, because in the first verse he said, Aparam vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, this glorious Sankirtan, which then says all Shakti, all Leelas, everything is present in this name alone. You don't need anything else. Just by realizing Harinam, you'll get everything. But Durdaivam, what is the nature of my misfortune? But this is also meant, because you'll see in the next verse, it leads into a certain mentality. This is meant to create humility. Because when you realize the value of the gift you have in the form of Harinam, and you realize my lack of intensity to maximize my relationship with Harinam, Duradaivam, then one goes, how unfortunate am I? And this mood starts to create Trenarapi Sunit. You understand? It'll start to create humility. Because without humility, we'll see in the next verse, it's not possible to chant Harinam. So this is also intended, Mahaprabhu wrote in such a way that it would engender humility in the chanter. And when that humility comes, one realizes I don't have any other means. Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself wrote, Eka ki amar, nahi pai bhal, harinama sankirtane. Even though I have this holy name, Eka ki amar, nahi pai bhal, I don't find any power in order to realize this name. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in humility, he's saying this. Eka ki amar, nahi pai bhal, harinama sankirtane. But Krishna say tomar, Krishna deti paro tomar sakati ache. But the Vaishnavas, they have Krishna. They are so merciful. So I have no power on my own. Eka ki ek means by myself, I have no power. So I will take shelter of the Vaishnav. So this is the mood of doing Saranagati or surrender. And I will put my case at the lotus feet of the Vaishnav, Sadhu Guru. Oh, by the mercy of Sadhu and Guru, I can realize something of this Nam. You understand? On my own, I don't have any power to do that. So this verse is meant to engender that idea. Etadrisi tava kripa bhagavan. Krishna is so merciful, but durdivam, I'm so unfortunate, I can't take advantage of that mercy due to the remaining attachments I have with false egoism, self-interest, etc., etc. So the holy name also can be broken down into different divisions. One is called Nam Aparad, which I'll discuss in detail in a minute here. The other is called Nam Abbas, or the shadow of the name. And the other is called Sudanam, or the pure name. In Nam Abbas, which I'll discuss first, because I'm going to go over Nam Aparad more deeply here. But in Nam Abbas, it means, there's one verse, Sankyat Parihasam Vastolam Helanam Va, Vakuntanama Seshagam Haram Vidu. A Nam Abbas means, like those persons who heard the record of George Harrison. Did they get no effect from that at all? Did they get any benefit? Of course they did. If you hear Harinam, there's some benefit. It's called Sukriti, like a pious credit. So every time a person hears the Harinam party, which is why Srila Prabhupada inaugurated in the movement that we go out on Harinam. Because by going out on Harinam, it gives the souls a chance to hear the name. Even though they're only hearing the external sound vibration, even the external sound vibration has power to give them sukriti or pious credits. When those pious credits accumulate, they turn into the opportunity to meet a sadhu. Bhagavad Bhakti Shu Sangena Prajayate Sat Sangha Prapyate Pumbir Purva Sukriti Sanjate. So Purva Sukriti Sanjate means from previously acquired sukriti or pious credits, one gets the opportunity to meet a Bhagavad Bhakta and do Sangha in the company of that Bhagavad Bhakta. This is how they obtain pure bhakti. So this is called Nam Abbas. And this Nam Abbas has great power. Vaikuntha Nama Aseshahagam Haram Vidu. That even if it's chanted inadvertently, right? Or even if the syllables of the name are turned around. Often our Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas would give the example that in Islam, things which are forbidden are called haram. Right? So if there's something that you shouldn't do or is forbidden, it's called haram. But because ha, the root of hare or hara is there, and ram is there, that counts as nam. You understand? Sankyat means to indicate something else, like Ajamil. He chanted when he was passing away from the world, Narayan. But he wasn't referring to Bhagavan. He had named his son Narayan, and when he saw the Yamadutas in fear, he reached out in a mood of protection towards his son and called his son's name. Oh Narayan, oh Narayan. But still he got credit for that. You understand? Even if a person neglectfully chants, Helanam means neglect. So sometimes we know when we go out on Harinam, many people come by and they just inadvertently chant, yeah, Hare Krishna, right? Or parihas. Sometimes people make fun of the chanting and they also chant, Hare Krishna, right? We've seen that when you go out on Harinam. Any of those circumstances is called Nam Abbas. It is a reflection or a shadow of the actual name, and they get pious credit for that. Those pious credits, when they accumulate, they turn into an opportunity to meet the sadhu And then from the sadhu, the genuine chance to get actual nam comes about. You understand? The next thing is nam aparad. So nam aparad, it's mentioned in Padma Purana, has 10 different divisions. So I wanted to go over these because it's very important. If you don't understand these aparads, it becomes difficult to avoid them. So the very first aparad is mentioned. Satam ninda namaha paramam aparadam vidanote yata kyatim yatam katam usahate tad vigraham. So I'm going to explain it because this is very important. So it basically means to blaspheme or to criticize devotees, right? But the way it's worded here is very important. Satam means the devotee. Ninda. Ninda here means to, with malice or with envy, to criticize or blaspheme the devotee. Because ninda has different meanings. Ninda could mean, I just did a class for someone online of what is criticism, criticizing, and critiquing something. Criticizing is usually done with malice or envy. Criticism is an evaluation of the faults and virtues of a particular situation or person. And critiquing something is looking at something, the faults and virtues, with the intention to improve it. You understand? So there are three different things. Criticizing normally comes from envy or malice. Criticism can be from a neutral position of analysis of faults and virtues of something. Critiquing something actually has the intent to make it better. If you cook a meal and you critique, oh, I could have added more salt, I could have. So the intention is to make it better. You understand? So similarly, ninda has these three different applications. Ninda, when it's done with envy and malice, is aparad. Ninda, when it's done by analysis of faults and virtues, like an ishtagoshti, to help the community operate better. That is criticism, but the criticism is done from a neutral heart. Or it's critiquing things to make them better. So ninda has these three applications also. So when ninda is coming from malice or envy, then it becomes aparad. You understand? So satam ninda namnaha parama aparadam. This is the greatest kind of aparad, parama aparad. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's called hattimata, the mad elephant offense. You understand? So then he says, vinote, vitanute means to sort of expand. So he's saying, vidinote yata kyatim. Kyatim means what can be said? What can I think? If I've blasphemed a Vaishnava, yatam katam, how will it then be possible? Then it says, ooh. The word ooh here is a expression of a sentiment. So in the Padma Purana, it's expressing the sentiment, oh my gosh, that would be like what ooh is saying. Oh my God. What possible for those who kyatim means who are glorifying Krishna, kyatim, those sadhus who are glorifying Krishna everywhere. Katam, ooh. Sahate means to tolerate. Tad vigraham. How can Krishna tolerate the blasphemy of those who are spreading his glories all over the world, those sadhus? How is it possible for the Lord's vigraha to tolerate that? So there's a very deep meaning here. The meaning is, because it's using the word vigraham, it's saying that Krishna's own form cannot, sahate means to tolerate. It means when you blaspheme a devotee or you harm a devotee, Krishna himself takes on that pain and suffering. Try to understand this. Krishna himself takes the pain and suffering. Mukunda, do you have any proof of this? In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, when the four Kumaras approached Jai and Vijay, and Jai and Vijay blocked them from entering, when the Lord first appeared there at the gate of Vaikuntha, he told the four Kumaras, I myself, because of my servant's activities, I myself am also taking the punishment of your curse to some degree. Because they're attached to me. They're like my own body. So because of this offense, I'm also taking. Also, when they were beating Haridas Thakur in 22 marketplaces. Then after they could not actually kill him, they threw his body in the Ganges. And then Haridas Thakur came and he went to the Association of Mahaprabhu. And when Haridas Thakur explained what had happened, Mahaprabhu told him, yes, I know. And then Mahaprabhu turned and pulled his upper cloth off and showed all the marks from the beatings were on his own back. You understand? So Vigraham here means, Sahate means the Lord cannot tolerate it. So the Lord, to protect his devotee, the Lord puts his own self in the place of the devotee. And the Lord takes the offense, either verbally or physically, to that Vaishnava, if it's a genuine Vaishnava. So the offense is not just to the Vaishnava, the offense is directly to Bhagavan. You understand? That's why it's Parama Aparad. The word aparad literally means apagata radha iti aparad. It means to go opposite to the mood of service. Radharani is the personification of the mood of loving service. To go opposite to that, apagata radha iti aparad, this is called aparad. And the most grievous of all these aparads is to blaspheme the devotees. Understand? So there are 6 things which are attached to this blasphemy. Hanti nindanti vaidveshti Vaishnavam nabhinandati krutyate no hashinam darshane. Patanani sat. Patanani sat means one will fall down from bhakti for these 6 things. Hanti means to physically harm a Vaishnava. Nindanti means to criticize a Vaishnava with malice and envy, etc. Vaishnavam nabhinandati, to fail to welcome a Vaishnava. Now, this was important because we went through a whole period where there was this kind of aparad going on a regular basis. In the name of sectarian dealings, they would fail to welcome very senior, very pure devotees in some institutions. This is a big aparad. They fail to welcome and please them. So, hanti nanti vai dveshti, to maintain envy towards a Vaishnava. To think, oh, this Vaishnava is not as good as I am, yet they're getting praise. Or to think, oh, this Vaishnava, to maintain any kind of envy towards a Vaishnava. They're not as good a speaker, so maybe they shouldn't speak, etc. All these kind of moods, no go. This becomes aparad. Understand? Now, if it's critiquing something to make a program better, you may do certain things. That's not aparad. But to have the feeling that this person is this way or that way, vaidveshti means a kind of subtle envy. It may be gross or more subtle, but still it comes under the category of envy. It's also aparad. Krutyate, to become angry at a Vaishnava. When I first lived in the ashram, 1975 or so, if any devotees just had a disagreement and raised their voices, they would immediately pay obeisances to each other and hug, out of fear that they may have committed aparad. Such a deep thing, this Vaishnava aparad. Krujate, no hashanam darshane. To be unhappy to see a Vaishnava is also an aparad. So, hanti nanti vaidveshti, Vaishnavam nabhinandati, krujate, no hashanam darshane. Any of those things are considered aparad. As far as ninda is concerned, the very first aparad. Then the second aparad, Shivasya Shri Vishnu Iha Yaiha Gunanamadi Shakalam Diya Binam. So this is important. If you consider that the demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Ganesh, others, that their power and their existence, even their names, are separate from the holy name of Lord Vishnu, this becomes aparad. Because there's only one God. We are not a monotheistic religion. We are very much we're not a, plural theistic religion. We are actually a monotheism. We believe in one God. So every other thing is only an expression of one God. We are monotheistic. It's only an expression of one God. So where you see that power manifest in different agencies, whether it is the demigod, polytheistic, thank you, Honorable Didi. So where you see that power manifest in any other agency, you should know it to be the same power of Bhagavan. If you see Binam means difference, if you see there's a difference and there's something separately worshipable beyond God, then this also becomes a apara to Harinam. So in particularly in India, it used to be that many people, they would worship Krishna, but they would also worship Ganesh, Surya Dev, other Brahma, Shiva, other demigods, etc., with the idea that they need to appease all the separate individual demigods and also serve Krishna. But actually, this is aparad. Now, maybe being done. So if somebody's doing it in ignorance, then it's not aparad. It's ignorance. But once a person becomes enlightened and they hear from sadhus, then to maintain the idea of attachment, I need to serve the demigods also. This becomes aparad. Understand? Then Guru Avagya. Guru Avagya, the word Avagya means, literally in Sanskrit, it means to despise. But that's just the extreme. So Avagya means to have a mood of disobedience or a mood of believing Guru is an ordinary person. You understand? Because the agency of, there's two factors to Guru. One is the Guru as the humanness, so to speak, of that personality, and then there's the agency of divinity. Two things are simultaneously present. So the disciple always has to see, my Guru Dev is the Saksharittvena, means the agency of Bhagavan in this world. In that way, always the proper etiquette has to be maintained. At the same time, the humanness or the Naravat Leela of my Guru Dev means the human-like pastime of my Guru Dev being in this world. I also honor that by Vishrambena Guru Seva, means intimate heart-to-heart service. You understand? So that intimate heart-to-heart service is important because the portal of transmission of divine knowledge and divine energy doesn't take place if it is crowded by on-reverence only. So one has to recognize the agency of Bhagavan because ultimately Guru is Krishna. You understand? And the person who's performing that function is simply a representation or agency of Krishna giving illumination. But when you make heart-to-heart connection with that person, it is so pleasing to Krishna. Because Raghunath Das Goswami described the Guru as Mukunda Presta. Mukunda Presta means very dear to the Lord. Understand? Similarly, when we sing it in the morning, Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddha Yarali Biya Yukti Rapakshaniya Tatrali Dakshat Atti Valabhasya. Atti Valabhasya means that Guru is very dear to Srimati Radhika and Krishna. So by making deep heart-to-heart connection with Guru, we also in that way pick up being in the line of mercy to also become very dear to Radha and Krishna. But Guru Avagya means to consider a Guru as an ordinary person. Another meaning of Guru Avagya here, which is more expanded, is to consider Guru to be an institution. You understand? That Guru as an institution means, well, in order to practice Bhakti, you have to take initiation from a Guru. So either from social arrangements, hereditary arrangements, like in my family, we've always taken this Guru. Or customary, it is customary in our place or our town or our village to accept this person as Guru. So social, hereditary, customary, or ecclesiastical. It means, like, this is one of the issues that I've had. I've been vocal about it, openly vocal about it, as a critique, not a criticism, but a critique to make it better. The idea of gurus being appointed by an institution and limiting the relationship of an aspirant with only certain persons is not a good thing. Because what happens then is there's an attempt to legislate the heart. You cannot legislate the heart. So genuinely, guru-disciple relationship is born from having experience of relationship with that person, hearing their harikatha, seeing their behavior, and then becoming inspired to want to take shelter of that person in order to advance in bhakti. But if you say, well, this is what we have on the menu in our institution, you can take 1, 2, 3, 4, this is not a good thing. And then also what happens is that then the person performing the function of guru ends up with thousands of disciples to the point where they can't even remember the names of what disciple is whom. How will Vishrambhena Guru Seva go on? There are exceptions to this. They're called sane Bhakti Bhaktas. It means Al Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Padma, there's others who have a special empowerment from Krishna in order to preach so broadly, like Al Srila Prabhupada, they can take tens of thousands of disciples. You understand? And still have direct personal relationships by the feature of their empowerment from Bhagavan. Al Srila Prabhupada is directly described. Guru Agya Sirasi Dharane Shakchavesha Sarupine. He himself declared, I was directly empowered by Lord Nityananda to do this seva. You understand? He was directly empowered by Lord Nityananda, who's the overarching principle of Guru. Other than that, how many disciples did Rupa Goswami have? Jiva Goswami. How many disciples Lokanath Goswami had? Narottam Das Thakur. Now, Narottam had many disciples. You understand? So it will depend on that empowerment and mission. But to set up an institutional arrangement where you just have a certain amount of people to take initiation from, not based on your heart's inspiration, but based on the ecclesiastical arrangement, is directly been rejected by Jiva Goswami. And Al Srila Prabhupada quotes Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 1, text 35 in the purport. He directly says one should not take initiation, social, customary, hereditary, or ecclesiastical considerations. You understand? So this is another form of Guru Avagya, because it tries to institutionalize the idea of Guru, and that way, even though you're not making Guru an ordinary human being, but now you're making Guru an institution. So it detracts from the reality of the heart-to-heart relationship of Guru and disciple, and it becomes more of an institutional thing. So in order to have communication with your Guru, you have to speak to the secretary, who will speak to the first secretary, who will speak to the personal assistant. This is not Guru-disciple relationship. Understand? Haribo Anuradha, question here?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji. So when saying that, you're saying that Guru Avagya is saying that, Guru is an institution. So is also saying that Guru is like, what's the word? Like the body? I don't know what the actual terminology is, but they say that Srila Prabhupada, like the temple is his body or something of that nature.
So is that ISKCON is the body of Srila Prabhupada.
I see, yes. So then does that fall under the same category, or is that just, an expression to just, basically glorify Srila Prabhupada?
No, it could be, because the idea here meaning that it may have arisen from the Judeo-Christian idea that, the church is the body of Christ sort of thing. So the idea that ISKCON movement is Krishna, is Prabhupada's own body. Now, Srila Prabhupada may have said that in regards to this mission of service to his Gurudev is non-different from himself. But when you look at it from the point of view or perspective of the institution, right, you cannot say that the material institution, right, because institutions have two features. They're material entities that are pursuing a spiritual ideal. You understand? They're material entities pursuing a spiritual ideal. Just like all the devotees in there being together, they're still individuals. So I've often told people, we are individuals practicing in a collective. We're not the collective. We're individual souls practicing in a collective of other aspirants. You understand? So it's very important to differentiate the material aspect, like the institution from a material point of view, from the heart of Srila Prabhupada, meaning the mission that was given to him by Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur and our Guru Parampara to manifest the prophecy of Mahaprabhu. That is directly Srila Prabhupada. But you cannot say, the material body and the business model of the society is Srila Prabhupada's heart, because there are definitely differences. You understand? Because every disciple is also the heart of their guru. Every guru feels each disciple is like my own heart. This is the mood of Vishrambhena Seva. So now you're telling me any wayward decisions, any wayward devotees, etc., they're all the heart of Srila Prabhupada? Cannot be. I'm not speaking that some devotee has some struggle, some difficulty. They still remain the heart of their guru, and guru still has so much mercy and love for them. But you make a decision, for instance, at the time they voted on the Siddhant regarding the jiva falling from the spiritual world. Is that Prabhupada's heart or not? You cannot say like that. If you come to the conclusion of an opposidantic idea, we fell out of the spiritual world, you cannot say because we've enshrined this as law within the institution, this is also the heart of Srila Prabhupada. That way you start to be a little bit deceptive towards the devotees, because there are many senior Prabhupada disciples, among them Srila Gogovind Maharaj, Radha Govind Maharaj, so many who didn't accept this idea. So what it means, they don't accept Srila Prabhupada? I had a very pretty heated, not exchange, but reply to one person who proposed like that those who didn't accept that, they were somehow or another illiterate because they must have not read, etc., etc. So I don't want to get into that. I don't want to change my mood here. But the point being, I had to, in respond, these are high class of Vaishnavas. So no, this is not the fact. And actually that person's view is opposidantic. So we cannot say that view is Srila Prabhupada. And that's the fault or problem in materializing the concept of guru, either that he's ordinary human being or she's ordinary human being, or they're an institution. Ritvik philosophy is the same thing. The idea that post the samadhi of guru, you'll just take initiation from the idea of Srila Prabhupada. He's the founder, acharya of this material institution, and everybody who comes will take initiation from him. You understand? And then they tried to rationalize that this was okay, but there's nowhere written by our Srila Prabhupada. He taught so many times in so many literatures on Guru Tattva, no ways mentioned. Ritvik was the proper mode of guru-disciple relationship. So all of those kinds of things can also be Guru Avagya. Also, Guru Avagya means Avagya means to disobey the order of the Guru. The Agya of Guru is called his order. To think, oh, my Guru is like ordinary person, so I can take this order or not take this order. It's also called Guru Avagya. All right. Shruti Sastra Nindam. To blaspheme the Sastra, to think that the Sastras are like ordinary writings. Again, I had a big debate with one academician who said that the Srimad Bhagavatam was really only 1,000-something years old, right? And he was saying, therefore, you could look at it from this perspective, from that perspective, and no. Srimad Bhagavatam is eternal. Tulya Bhagavata Krishna Vibhu Sabasrai, Pratishloke Pratyakshare Nanattakai. Srimad Bhagavatam is directly the form of Krishna. The first two cantos are like his two lotus feet. The next two cantos are like his thighs. The fifth canto is like his waist. This is a whole description given in Padma Puran, that Srimad Bhagavatam is directly the form of Krishna. So it is not 1,000-year-old literary writing. You understand? And the making of this mundane ideas, this is also called Sastra Ninda. It means to blaspheme the Sastra. Or Shruti, it means the Harikatha, to blaspheme Harikatha, to think it's ordinary intellectual conversation or intellectual teaching. Not to realize Satam Prasanga Mamaviya Sambido, that in the Harikatha, Swarup Shakti is present there. It's a spiritual phenomenon. It's not a material intellectual information exchange. It's actually spiritual potency. Then, Tat Arthavado. So the fifth offense is to consider that the glories of Harinam have been exaggerated. Tat Artha means the meaning, vad. A theory that actually it's excessive to say, for instance, that Harinam, even the Abbas of Harinam, can remove all sins. And that a person doesn't have to do any kind of ritualistic process to become purified. Just simply chant Harinam and all sins will be removed. So some will argue, well, this is a kind of exaggeration. To think like that is also offense to Harinam, because Mahaprabhu is directly saying, Nam Namakri Bauddha, Nija Sava Shakti, all powers in this Nam. So if Krishna's own form is in this Nam, what to speak of the power to remove sins? Krishna's own form, pastimes, everything is in this Nam. So it's mentioned that even Nama Bas, Vaikunta Nama Asesha Agam Haram Vidu. Asesh Agam means unlimited sins. Haram Vidu, they're all destroyed even by Nama Bas. You understand? The sixth offense, Harinamni Kalpanam. So if you try to then also make up meaning, so one is to minimize the potency of Harinam and to think that it's glories or exaggeration. The other is to give false material exaggerations regarding Harinam that come from your imagination. You understand? So this is the sixth one. Shri Harinamini Kalpana. Another meaning here is to believe that what the glories of Harinam that have been spoken about Harinam, to think they're just imagination and not to understand the reality of them. To think, oh, this is imagination. How can Krishna's own form be in a name? This is just a sound. So you're saying Krishna's form is in this sound. But Sastra is telling, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Punasaro Nityamukto, Abhinatvam Nama Namnyo. The word Abhinatva means there's no difference between the person, form, gun, qualities, Krishna, and the name. So somebody may think, well, this is kind of imagination, because when you say the name, I don't see Krishna. Not realizing that your eyes have to become purified. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. When your eyes have prem, you'll see Krishna when you recite the name. But Krishna is not obliged to just appear to us. Even when his name is chanted, he's not obliged to just appear, because that name may not be Sudanam or pure name. It may be contaminated by your conceptions, your apparats, so many different things. So Naham Prakasa Savasha Yogmaya Samamrita. Krishna can remain hidden and only reveal himself to those whose pure intentions in the Nam are manifest. This seventh one is also very, very important. Nam no bala jasya hi papa buddhi na vidyate tasya yamai hi shuddhi. It means to, since I've understood now that Harinam can remove unlimited sins, therefore I won't worry about the fact that I'm committing sins, because I can just chant and remove them. You understand? So if I make a program that when I commit sin, I'll go back and chant, and I maintain a consciousness that this is a workable ideal, that whenever I commit sins, I'll just chant and get rid of the sin and I'll be good. So it says here, Nam no bala jasya hi papa buddhi. So the mentality, buddhi means having the mentality that I'll cheat the system by always being able to take shelter of Harinam when I commit sins. This attitude is aparad to Harinam. If a person inadvertently has some struggle and some sinful activity is committed, certainly Harinam will remove that sin. But if there's intellectual calculation to exploit Harinam, and you cannot cheat Krishna, you can't say maybe I could do it and he won't know it. You cannot cheat Krishna. You understand? So if your mentality is that I'll commit sins, but because I'm chanting, those sins are erased, this is an aparad to holy name. Number 8, Dharma Vrata Tyaga Huadi Kama Shubhakriya Samyamapi Pramadaha. So if you think that the chanting is like other ritualistic spiritual activities, like there are some people who have a whole myriad of different spiritual things that they do. They get up and they first, say an affirmation. Then the next thing is they take sage and they smudge themselves. Then after that, they do something else. Then they sit down, maybe they'll chant one round of Hare Krishna. And then they'll get up and then they'll, do concentration on a pyramid. All kinds of different things. But the point being, if you believe that Harinam, the chanting of Harinam, is one of many kind of ritualistic activities that you can do for your own personal benefit, then this becomes aparad to Harinam. In other words, the effectiveness of Harinam has to be realized as Harinam being non-different from Radha and Krishna, and myself having a sambandha, a relationship with Nam. You understand? If there's no real relationship with Nam, just like many years ago I mentioned, there was one devotee who used to chant the holy name, but he would sit up against the wall. He would sit with his face very close to a wall like this. And he would chant the name really loudly. And so once I asked him about it, he said, oh, well, what I'm doing is, just trying to catch the pure sound. So if I say it and I'm really close to the wall, it'll echo back to me. And maybe there's a double chance now I may catch the pure one. So I was like, anyway, okay. But anyway, so the idea being, he was almost considering like, this is like a kind of sound ritual. And the whole idea was to catch this sound, and the sound would, it's a whole misconception about Harinam. You understand? So to believe Harinam is another ritualistic activity rather than the actual relationship of the soul with Bhagavan and development of love, if you don't have this perspective and you consider not, even for those devotees who are not like that, but who have joined the ashram, they're living in the ashram, they're chanting every day, or they've just taken to the process of Krishna consciousness, they're chanting every day, but they consider this is my ritual. I recite prayers, then I chant Harinam, then I chant my Diksha mantras, then I worship. If this is done as a ritual every day, it's the same aparad. The practice of bhakti has to be a living experience of love. When the husband cooks for the wife, a wife cooks for the husband, that's not a ritual. Even though it may be performed every day, it's not a ritual. It's an act within the consciousness of love for the husband for the wife, or wife for the husband, or mother and father for the children. You understand? It's not a ritual. It's done every day. And even sometimes it seems like it's on automatic pilot, right? But still the basis of that activity is imbued with the consciousness of the relationship with that person. So when the activities of bhakti, hearing, chanting, worshiping the deity, become dismissed from some sambandha, relation with Bhagavan, it becomes ritualistic. And Rupa Goswami mentioned niyama agraha. Niyama agraha means one, either not to follow rules and regulations at all, or to follow the niyam or rules and regulations ritualistically. Both things are not good for bhakti. Number 9, ashradane vimukhe api ashrinvati yas cha upadesha shiv nam aparadaha. So upadesh means to give instructions. So to give instructions, ashradane means those who are not faithful. They have no faith in Harinam, have no faith in sadhus. Vimuk, they're interested in material life. To try to give them upadesh or instructions, to get them to ashrinvati means to hear about the internal instructions. This means the rahasya of Nam, means the secrets of Harinam and the glories of Harinam. This Shiva Nam means the auspiciousness, the deep auspicious nature of Nam. Then this is an aparad. So similarly in the Bible, to cast the pearls before swine, phenomena. To let people hear Harinam, there's no aparad. Even if they're materialistic, etc., no harm. But to try to explain the glory of Hari being Radha, Krishna being Krishna, their Ashtaka Leela Leela being manifest, these things should not be explained to those who are Ashradane and Vimuk. First, Ado Shraddha, there should be faith in Guru, Sadhu, Harinam. There should be faith in these things. Ado Shraddha, then Tata Sadhu Sangha. There should be this progression. Then Bhajana Kriya. Once they start performing bhajan under guidance of a sadhu, then you can start to gradually reveal the rahasya and the mahima, means the glories and the mysteries of Nam. But to ordinary persons who are no faith and they're still interested in material life, then the glories, the intimate glories of Harinam should not be explained. But they can hear Harinam, because again, whether they hear Harinam and get sukriti, whether they hear Hari Nam and it becomes the seed of faith in the future, all these things are good for them. But to try to explain the depth of Hari Nam to them will be detrimental. Because if they blaspheme Nam or the Vaishnav, then their chance to acquire that Sukriti to help them come to genuine practice in the future will be hampered. Anuradha Didi, question?
Yes, Prabhuji. So what would be the best way to maybe describe something about the Mahamantra without, maybe going into that type of detail and, risk committing aparad?
You could describe the glory and the efficacy of this Nam to make a person's life better. And everybody, when they hear make your life better, immediately channel self-interest. Oh, so if I do this, then my life will become better. I'm willing to put that in my arsenal of things that I'm doing to make my life optimal. You understand? So they may not have deep faith in Nam as a mode of service or any understanding of the Nam and the possessor of the name being the same or any of the glories, etc. But they have the idea by doing this, I'll have a favorable outcome in my life. So all of those things can be expressed. Al Srila Prabhupada keyed in on the fact that people were suffering in the material world, birth, old age, disease, and death. And then by taking up the chanting of this mantra, it helps one to realize the soul, which is immortal. So all these level things can be discussed. Okay? But to discuss the Rahasya of Nam and the glory of the inner meanings of Nam, that should be reserved for those who have developed faith, have come under the guidance of a sadhu, and have taken up the process of bhajan. All right, last one. Shrutvapi namna mahatmyam ya priti nararito dhamma aham mamadi paramo namni shoapi aparad krit. So it is also doing directly aparad. So it's interesting here. Shoapi aparad krit. Krit means to do something. So it is doing aparad to shrutvapi namna mahatmyam, to hear about the glory of Harinam, all the things we've been discussing about Harinam, to hear this mahima and mahatmya of Harinam, ya priti rahito means, and not to develop love and affection. If you're hearing these things, but you're not developing any love and affection, and rather, damnaha aham mamadi. The adi means the primary thing in your life is aham mameti, I and mine. So if your own self-interest is still prominent, even after hearing the glories of Nam, then the performance of the Nam with this mentality is still doing aparad. You get it? To perform hearing and chanting about the glories of the name. At the same time, not to do so with the intention to develop priti means love, but rather to create a mood of doing it in order aham mameti. Aham mama adi is expressed here, but adi means putting yourself first, right? This is also doing aparad. Now, this is a very interesting point because many devotees, after they come to the process of bhakti, they are still operating from the mode that I took up this practice of Krishna consciousness to get freedom and liberation from pain and suffering in the material world. So then what happens to their chanting? Their chanting becomes dominated by a subtle self-interest of liberating themselves so they become salvationists. By chanting this mantra, I will realize Krishna and I'll realize my soul and become free from all suffering. That's why if you continuously hear Hari Katha about not being the body, about suffering in the material world, about how fortunate you are that you're now chanting the holy name, that you've come into the practice of bhakti, but you don't hear about the glory of love of God, the glory of the associates of God and how they love God. If you don't hear these things, then you'll become a salvationist. You'll desire liberation. And you'll go on chanting, you'll hear the Hari Katha, but you'll think this is all window dressing for the essential fact that I'm going to become free from any more birth and death in the material world and suffering in the material environment. So that has to be gradually given up in lieu of thinking, just like Raghunath Das Goswami says, when you start to perform the desire to serve Krishna in Rag Marg, especially in deep love, he said there, Yari Cheravasam Vrajabhuvi Saragam Pratijanur. You have to even give up the idea that even if I have to take birth after birth, I don't mind. Because I'll take birth after birth in order to obtain the goal of love for Krishna. You understand? It may not happen in one lifetime, but I'm willing to take birth over and over again to obtain this. So the idea that I'm chanting strictly in this lifetime to get out of the material world, this can become salvationist mentality. Hi, Bo, Ganga, and Virginia Nandan Prabhu. Unmute. There you go.
Yeah, Adi Bodhi. As I was trying to raise my hand, I was trying to find where to raise my hand, and in doing so, I forgot what I was going to say. I'll get right back with you.
All right. It was a lot of information. All right. So we don't want to become salvationists. We don't become muktavadis. In other words, we only want to obtain liberation. So the only way to do that, like it's mentioned in the 10th canto Bhagavatam, Vikridam Rajavarubiridam cha Vishnu. Sharanvito anu shanu yadvana yatyaha. In the company of those who are deeply in a mood of paramartik shraddha, means deep faith, realized faith, in the glories of the sweetness of the Vikridam Rajavarubiridam cha Vishnu, in the transcendental Leelas of Radha and Krishna. Vikridam. You understand means? Vikrita means the speciality of the Leelas of Radha and Krishna. You understand? So those who are hearing continuously the nature of these sweet Leelas of Vrindavan and so forth, and they develop deep attachment to wanting to obtain that mood. This is the real meaning for chanting, a real purpose for taking to the chanting of the Mahamantra and practicing Sadhan Bhajan. If the idea is just to get liberation, you can get that in any, even impersonalist school of thought. You could take up yoga or gyan or any other process sincerely. You'll also become liberated from the material world. So bhakti has another intention, another purpose. We read the purpose of bhakti, anya abhilasita sunyam, jnana kamadi navritam, to have no other desire, not even a desire for liberation, but only anukulyena Krishna anusilanam, that everything should only be for Krishna's anukul seva, means favorable service to Krishna. This is the purpose of bhakti. So this last operette says, if you hear these things, shrutva means you hear it, api, although you're hearing it, namna mahatmyam, the beauty and the glory of these names, ya pratirahito, but you don't develop an attitude of wanting love, but rather, dhamnaha ahammamadi, you still remain immersed in self-interest, paramonamni sho api aparadakrit, then your chanting of the name is still invested with aparad. So these are the 10 offenses to the holy name, and it's when we're able to recognize and try to practice in such a way to avoid these 10 offenses that the fruit of our chanting and our practice really starts to mature. So you have to think about them. I don't know, maybe I'll try to put them in the Bhakti Intensive. I'll try to copy them and put the 10 offenses in the Bhakti Intensive. And you can get a chance to look at them and so forth and so on, and practice in such a way as to try to avoid these 10 offenses. So let me see, I think by time we're getting a little bit late, so I may have to finish the rest of this particular verse, like the description of Radhika's mood in relation to the verse next week. Right? But any questions or any comments about what we've gone through so far? We went through, first of all, understanding that all of Krishna's power means that the Rup, Gun, Parika, and Leela are in the name, and the name is not different from Radha and Krishna. So their eightfold pastimes throughout the day is also present there. Nija Sarva Shakti, all the power and everything related to Krishna is in the name. And there's no hard and fast rules regarding doing smaran and I brought up the fact that the word smaran, and let me, right as I'm saying smaran, which means remembrance, let me go to Virginia Nandan right now.
Thank you, Gurudev.
All right. I will try to remember where I was also. Go ahead.
If you're chanting and you're for liberation,
Mm-hmm.
but you're thinking because of what you read, and you're thinking that you're going to enter Vaikuntha and you're going to Krishna Loka, but yet that's not the reality of the fact. So, and liberation takes you where into the Brahma Yodi?
No. If you're chanting and you have the desire for liberation in Vaikuntha, there are 4 kinds of liberation: Samipya, Sarupya, Salokya, and Sarshti. So you can obtain liberation in Vaikuntha. Also, you can have that aspiration to obtain liberation in Vaikuntha. But Rupa Goswami has said this is not the highest class of devotion. It is called Shukya Aishwarya. What is it? Shukya Aishwarya Uttara Bhakti. Shukya Aishwarya Uttara Bhakti. It means it's bhakti that's covered with the intention to go to Vaikuntha for your happiness. You understand?
Yes.
But if you genuinely practice bhakti, Krishna will also reward you. Yes, you can come to Vaikuntha. You can even go to Vrindavan like that. Shukya Aishwarya Uttara Bhakti and Prem Seva Aishwarya Uttara Bhakti is also there. It means I want to go to Vrindavan and I want to love Krishna so I can be happy.
Self-interest is still there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Self-interest is still there.
Yes.
But it's like Kubja. Did Kubja have self-interest?
Who?
Kubja was the hunchback lady in Dwarka who wanted to have intimate.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
She had self-interest.
yes, she did. Yeah.
Her self-interest was she wanted to be with Krishna. Her saving grace was she only wanted Krishna, no one else. So her love is called Sadharani Rati. It means it's ordinary. Its only glory is that it's in relation to Krishna. But did Krishna fulfill her desire?
Yes.
But our Goswami says, but this is not pure devotion.
Right.
You understand?
Yes.
What about the queens in Dwarka? Their love is called Samanjasarati because they're happy that Krishna is my husband. And I have 10 sons and a daughter by Krishna. And I live in one palace with Krishna. You understand? So they have deep love for Krishna, but also all these other things, the factors in their happiness.
Right.
What of the gopis? Atma sukhe dukhe gopiyo na karere vichar. They have no conception of self-interest. Their only desire is to please Krishna.
To make Krishna happy, yes.
He's not their husband. You understand? They don't even get the benefit of being a wife and being treated like a wife. Nothing. That's why Krishna says, I cannot repay you. Napareham nirvaja samyajam. Swaswadu kritam vibhuru yasyapiva. Yamabajan dujaya. Geha shrinkala samvischa. Yatat paryatu sadhuna. So the last line means, may your love itself be your reward. Now Mahaprabhu, tasting that love, is offering it to us. You can serve this love. There's no greater gift than this. You understand? Very deep.
Thank you so much.
So smaran. Now I'm going to remember. So it says in the verse, niyamita smarane. So here it doesn't say chanting. I brought up this fact. I'm summarizing now. Because smaran means, smaran has different categories. So you do smaran. Dharan means when you are remembering, you concentrate on the meanings. Smaran, dharan. Dharan means concentration. Dharana leads to dhyan. It means leads to meditation. That's when you take away your intellectual application and you allow the organic nature of your spiritual maturation and what you're meditating on to become one. This is truly the meaning of yoga. You understand? So, smaran, dharan, dhyana, dhruv, anusmriti. It means when the remembrance comes continually. You understand? In a flow. It comes continuously. Finally, samadhi. When you have the ability to enter into the spiritual position and remain absorbed there, it's called samadhi. Samadhi is not just when you pass away. Samadhi means the state. All right, Prabhuji, you have program today, Trivikram Prabhu? Having to go to work? Okay. No harm.
Yes, we have program at 5 p.m. every Sunday.
Okay. All righty. So you're going to get...
I'll tell Krishna Dave you said hello.
All right, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam to all.
Haribol.
Haribol. So, like this, then, Dharan, Dhyana, Dhruvanusmriti, Samadhi. You understand? So this is the real meaning of smaran. That's why the word smaran was used here and not just the word chanting. In the first verse, he said, by doing kirtan of the holy name. But now in the second one, he's saying, hold on one second here. But now in the second verse, he's saying, Tatra arpita niyamita smaranena kala. That in this smaran, there's no rule, regulation, anything. You can become completely absorbed in that kram I just talked about, that progression. Smaran, dharan, dhyan, dhruvanusmriti, samadhi. You understand? So that's why the word smaran is being used here. Then we went over the fact that in order to engender humility, because the next verse will talk about the fact that you have to become Trinarapi Sunich. You have to become very humble. Kirtaniya Sadahari. If you want to be able to enter into this position of continuous chanting and remembering, you have to become very humble, which means you have to give up all false egoism. So now in the second verse, it's recognized that Tadasi Tava Kripa Bhagavan, oh my Lord, Mama Api, even though you've placed all of your mercy in this Nam, you've given us the mercy that we can access you through this Nam. Dur Daivam, I'm so not humble that the aparads and my lack of humility, Idrasami Hajanina Anuraga, has put me in a position where I have no deep attachment for Harinam, in spite of understanding all these things. Understand? That's meant to create humility. Then I went over the 10 offenses to Harinam. I went over the 3 divisions of Harinam, Nam Abbas, Nam Aparad, and Sudanam. All right. Any questions or comments? Last questions or comments? So in our next meeting, we'll go over the deep meaning of this verse before we go into Trinadapi Sunich. Like that.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Dharpada.
Haribol Vinayji.
Haribol, Prabhuji. When we said Dhruv Smriti, is it because Dhruv was fixed in his Smriti? That's why Dhruv is called Dhruv Smriti, or?
No, actually vice versa. In Sanskrit, the word Dhruva means determination or fixed. So Dhruva Anu Smriti. Dhruva Anu Smriti means becoming fixed or steady in a continuous stream of Smriti means remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
That's not done by our effort. It arises from the dhyan. What happens is that when we begin doing smaran, we are remembering the Harikatha that we heard from Gurudev, and we are associating it directly with the Rup, Gun, Parika, and Leela that's present in Nam. So when those two things come together, it gives rise to Dharan. Dharan means concentration. So all external things, they start to fade away, and I can concentrate on Nam, Rup, Gun, Parika, and Leela in relation to my Sambandha Gyan and the Harikatha of the Leela. When that happens, that turns into a meditation. In the meditation, in Sambandha Gyan, I'm also seeing from my position in relation to Radha and Krishna, how this Leela is related to me. Then when there's the input organically in Bhakti maturation of that dhyan, and I'm situating myself in relation to that Leela, right? And it doesn't happen by our effort, it happens by Bhakti Shakti. Then that turns into Dhruv Anusmriti. In other words, there is a fixedness now to the flow of the smaran that's arising from the Nam. You understand? Because smaran is produced by Nam. So now a continuum of remembrance, unbroken, right, takes place. This is also like mantra mayupasan and swarasiki upasan. You understand? Mantra mayupasan means I'm meditating on a particular scene, like Divyat Vrindavanaranya Kalpadrumara, etc. You understand? Now that would be like dhyan. Then Dhruv Anusmriti. the unfoldment of how Radha and Krishna came to save a Kunj, what Leela took place, that Radhika's in Man, why Krishna is begging her, and now Radhika sitting on the couch with Krishna, which means her man is almost broken because she's displaying Kila Kinchit Bhav in that pose, and Krishna is begging. You understand? So like this is called Dhruvanusmriti. And then when we enter into that position where we're participating in the Leela, everything, it's in the Samadhi, because Samadhi is not just in the passing away. Samadhi means the consciousness becomes fixed in that position. So this is related to Seva Sarika Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatri. It means in my spiritual form, which I've realized, I'm now participating in that Leela. So I'm in Samadhi. You understand? My position is fixed.
Yes,
it's fixed in that position, and only some Udipan can bring me out. Like when Mahaprabhu, he jumped in the ocean. When Swarup Damodar and others brought Mahaprabhu out, they yelled Hare Krishna in his ear. And then Mahaprabhu woke up. So where was he? He was in Samadhi. So when they called Hare Krishna, he came to external consciousness. It is called Bahirdasya. Our Srila Prabhupada, he was chanting Jaya Radha Madhava before giving class in Atlanta. So Jaya Radha Madhava. And then Srila Prabhupada went into trance, because the chanting of those names, again invested with all these potencies, Prabhupada was thinking, our Srila Prabhupada was thinking, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Prabhupada then went into, by the Udipan, stimulus of that line, he went into the Nikunja Seva of Radha Madhav. You understand? So he could not externally now communicate. Devotees didn't know what was happening. Then later on, devotees began chanting, because nobody knew what to do. Is Prabhupada having stroke? What's going on? Everybody just chant, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada came back to external consciousness. Then he told devotees to continue, just keep chanting. You understand?
Haribo. Dandavat.
Dandavats.
Haribo. Good day.
Haribo.
Yeah, there was a mantra Prabhupada used to chant during morning, during class in the morning. And Narayanan Namaskritcha Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devam Sarasvati Vyasam Tato Jayam Yadirayet. Where can I find that?
It's in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I believe it's in the second chapter. I'll look it up and I'll send you it.
Oh,
but
I'm sorry.
That verse is giving glorification to the lineage of Srimad Bhagavatam.
I found the second part of it. It was in where you just said first canto, chapter 2, text 18. But that first part was not there.
Yeah, it must come in a different place. I'll find it.
Yeah, different place. Yeah, I can't find it.
Yeah, then Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu, that verse is also there. And it's saying by hearing the Bhagavatam, almost to nil, all of our Abhadra means like anarthas and everything will practically be destroyed. And the reason it says that is because ultimately the full destruction will come at the time of Bhav going into Prem, and that happens only by the creep of Bhagavan. So it says by the Bhagavatam's study and our bhajan sadhan, it will come to the point where everything is almost destroyed to nil. Then when we receive the creep of Bhagavan, it will be completely destroyed.
I can't, that mantra 20, 30 years ago, I heard it and it's stuck in my brain and I can't get rid of it. And I say it every morning. And it's very nice.
Yeah, we should recite before Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
Like Lalita pulled it up. It is the second chapter. 1, 2, 4. You got it, Virginia Nandan?
Yeah.
1, 2, 4.
Yep.
That's that mantra.
Yep. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotam.
1, 2, 4. Okay.
And where?
Yep.
First canto.
Second chapter, verse 4.
Verse 4.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Then the prayers you hear a lot, like my Gurudev used to recite, Yam Pravajantam Anupe Tamape Krityam. This verse is Sutta Goswami's pranam mantra to Shukadev Goswami, because his guru was Shukadev Goswami. Before he recited Bhagavatam to the sages, he recited his pranam mantras to his Gurudev. So Yam Pravajantam Rupetam Apeti Kritam Daipayana Vikat. So this is his pranam mantra to Shukadeva Goswami. Also Yaswa Anubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam. This is the second part of the pranam mantra of Sutta Goswami for Shukadeva Goswami.
All right.